Arsenal is bringing in Brentford goalkeeper David Raya to give some competition to incumbent Aaron Ramsdale. But when is competition good, and when is it very bad? Also, what effect is this going to have on Matt Turner? We're going to talk about all the different angles of this one here on Stoppage Time at Pints and Punditry. Welcome back to Pints and Punditry here at Total FIFA Career Mode. Today I want to talk about the transfer rumor that is in the works. David Raya going from Brentford to Arsenal. And by the time I get done recording and editing this, it may be a done deal. But either way, I want to talk sort of about the philosophy, even if this doesn't go through, of what Arsenal is trying to accomplish, and then also what this would mean for Matt Turner from a U.S. perspective, because whether it's this move or another one, he might need a move out of Arsenal. So we're going to get into a whole bunch of stuff today, really interesting topics. I'd love to get your comments down below. Make sure you're leaving your comments on all the different aspects of this move down below. Also, if you don't already subscribe to the channel, go ahead and hit that follow button for us. Like us while you're down there, and follow us on Twitter at TotalFIFACM. David Raya possibly going from Brentford to Arsenal. They want to maybe upgrade Aaron Ramsdale, maybe just a different style. It depends on your metrics, depends on how you evaluate goalkeepers. Aaron Ramsdale had a good year for Arsenal. Their collapse sort of at the end certainly wasn't because of him. He's a good goalkeeper. He's in the discussion for the number 1 jersey for England. He's trying to displace Jordan Pickford, and playing at Arsenal is a good way to do that, but only if you are playing, and that could be what is at stake here. And it feels like they're trying to take a page out of the Pep Guardiola playbook, the Man City playbook, in the idea of creating competition across the board at every position. And that is a good philosophy in general, right? Competition breeds, more competition. It supposedly brings out the best in players. And not every player is cut out for it. You've seen players leave Manchester City because they're not getting enough playing time, and maybe they just couldn't handle the competition. Maybe they just didn't like the fact that if you slip up one little bit, you can lose your spot. But in general, it brings out the best in players. And most of the players who play under Pep and play at Man City will say that competition has led them to be the best. And no, they don't love it when they're not getting the playing time that they want, but it has made them a better player, and it has brought out the best in them. But the key there is that there is enough playing time, and there are enough games to rotate in and give you a chance to fight your way back into that starting 11 or the premium games, if you will, because the really good teams have a full unit and a full second unit and have basically 2 starting 11s if you can get there. But that doesn't work at goalkeeper. There's not enough competition to go around, and you see what Man City does. It's not really a competition with Stefan Ortega backing up Ederson. They bring in their backup and they basically say, you're going to play the FA Cup games or you're going to play the Carabao Cup games. It's both, but you're not really going to play in the Premier League. You're not really going to play in the Champions League. So we're giving you these to get your playing time, and yeah, you get to be a part of this organization and win trophies, but you are clearly the 2, and this is clearly the 1. So for all the competition they have at every other position, they really don't have competition at the goalkeeper position. And that's where this can be a problem, is it's a one-person position, and you're not supposed to have a lot of change out. It's not like, this is a certain style of opponent, so we're going to play a different goalkeeper. That's not the level of consistency you want at that position. There's an old adage in American football where the quarterback position is head and shoulders more important than any other position on the field. In fact, it's more important than all the other positions combined. And it has the similarity to goalkeepers, where it is a one-person position. There is no rotation, there is no exchange, there's no different styles. You've got your guy and you go with him. And the old adage is, if you have 2 quarterbacks, you have none. Right? Because if there's some sort of competition, or if there's a controversy, or if there is some sort of discrepancy over who the number 1 guy is, then you don't really have a guy. And the same can be said about goalkeepers. If you've got 2, you've got 0. So what is going to happen here? If they bring in Raya, they got to promise him some sort of playing time, or at least a chance at playing time. That immediately lights a fire under Aaron Ramsdale that you hope he responds well to, but what if he doesn't? So you really have to be ready to make that move, which is surprising considering Ramsdale had a good season. It seems unnecessary, and considering what it's going to cost them, the discussions are somewhere in the £40 million pound range. That's a lot to get incrementally better, so I don't quite understand it. But it also just runs the risk of upsetting the apple cart when you had a guy who had a really good season. And you're not going to rotate these guys in and say, oh, well, we're playing a team that is more susceptible to the long ball, so we're going to start Raya today, who's a little bit better at that than Ramsdale. But, oh, this team has a little bit better of an attack, so we need more of a shot stopper, so maybe we go with Ramsdale in this game. I mean, maybe that's their plan, but that is a recipe for disaster if that's the case. I cannot imagine that Mikel Arteta is thinking about doing something like that. I would imagine he knows better, because that's just a disaster waiting to happen. So I don't quite understand this move all the way around unless they truly think that Ramsdale has taken them as far as they can go, and that he was a part of the problem last year, and that this will be a major upgrade, and they'll say the right things and say it's still Ramsdale's job, but they're going to have a competition, that they're doing this for competition, all that sort of stuff. But then really, as soon as Ramsdale trips, boom, in comes David Raya, and the switch is made, and Ramsdale's a backup, and he'll be gone by next year. So maybe that's what they're thinking. And listen, it's their evaluation, and if they think they can get incrementally better, so be it. But it does seem like a lot of money to spend on a position where you can't play two guys, and you had a guy who did pretty well, so you can only get incrementally better. What does this do for the current backup, which is Matt Turner, who's the number one for the United States? Well, it could be the best thing that ever happened to him, because Matt Turner needs to play. He's not a particularly young guy. He's not still developing. He needs to play every day. And he left MLS to go to Arsenal knowing he would be a backup. But you had to hope that his thinking was, okay, that will help elevate me to the number one job for the men's national team, which they then may put me on display for another job. And that's sort of what happened. Typically, it's the other way around. You go to your club team, you prove yourself, and it helps you earn your spot on the national team. This may have worked the other way around, because he played more for the national team almost than he did for Arsenal. He really only played in the FA Cup games, and he did a nice job for them, and he did a nice job in the World Cup. So he is now, on paper, he is a World Cup, or a goalie with World Cup experience, a World Cup veteran, and that goes a long way. He certainly is not going to generate interest because of exploits in the Premier League. He didn't really get enough time for that. And with Arsenal, he played some in the FA Cup, but not a ton. So he does need to get out and prove himself, and there are talks with Nottingham Forest, and there will be others. If this David Raya move goes through, Matt Turner will get a ton of interest. Hopefully, he can stay in the Premier League and play every day, even if it's on a bad team, just to get that level of experience. We don't want another Zach Steffen situation where he's not playing, and even his current situation is not great long term for him to be the backup for multiple years. So hopefully this opens up a door for him. It would be disappointing if he had to go down to a championship level team, but it would be better than not playing. But ideally he can find somebody in the bottom tier of the Premier League and still play every day and get that level of experience, or maybe even Serie A, now that there's a rule change with more non-EU players being allowed in there, so that would be viable as well. But again, he needs to play every day at a top tier, somewhere in a top league. So maybe this is the move that needs to happen for that to happen, and this will be a good thing for Matt Turner. But from Arsenal's standpoint, I don't quite understand it unless they really are just disappointed with Aaron Ramsdale and think they can do better. Basically, by making this move, it puts the clock on Aaron Ramsdale's time at Arsenal, and that isn't a move I expected to happen. What are your thoughts? I would love to get your comments below, from an Arsenal perspective, from a goalkeeping perspective, from a Brentford perspective, from a U.S. men's national team perspective. If you're a fan of Matt Turner or the American players playing abroad, I would love to get your comments below. Make sure you're subscribing to the channel if you don't already. Hit the like button for me while you're down there, and definitely follow us on Twitter at TotalFIFACM, where you can leave lots of comments as well. Thanks as always for joining us here on Stoppage Time at Pints and Punditry. This is Total FIFA Career Mode.